Well, hello. Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast. I am your host, April Chapman, and today we're going to discuss something that's quite disturbing. Well, maybe it's not disturbing to you, but it was disturbing to me. Anytime I see the worst of the culture on full display for all of the world to see, it is disturbing to me. And I will never say, well, that's just another day in, Crazyville. No, I can't be okay with watching the demise of our culture and not feel emboldened to want to, as a Christian, share the gospel and let the world know that there is a savior who can save us from this darkness and despair. What am I talking about today? There is an ongoing story of a woman who was flying on American Airlines. And because she was not keeping up with her children and could not find them when they were waiting for a connecting flight, she decided to go WWE and start tearing up the airport. I'm gonna go ahead and share the clip, and y'all pray for your girl because y'all know me. I don't have time for the foolishness, and it's time that someone in the culture, I'll be the sacrificial lamb. It's time that someone in the culture shed light on this poor behavior and say, this is not okay. I don't care how angry you are. You must be held accountable. So let's go ahead and take a look. And we're going to watch this story as it
chaotic scene caught on camera at Miami International Airport. A passenger going on a violent outburst in a packed terminal, but today she had a different demeanor when facing a judge. Local 10's Leanne Motorhome live now at the jail in West Miami-Dade with what set her off. Leanne.
And the video of this chaotic event went viral on social media. This woman was throwing things, attacking airport workers, yelling at whoever would listen. She is still behind bars and has yet to post bond. A day after this chaotic episode at Miami International Airport, Camelia McMillie appears before a bond court judge.
Good probable cause.
The 25-year-old Walmart stock worker from Birmingham, Alabama, was arrested and charged for aggravated battery, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. Cell phone cameras rolled as McMillie appeared to shout for her kids on Tuesday. A different angle then shows her chasing after an American Airlines gate agent before tossing around computer equipment and throwing a monitor at an airport employee. Stunned travelers watched the scene play out in Terminal D. Police say McMillie was on her way to New York City with her two kids, ages 6 and 8, when they missed their connecting flight at MIA. While waiting to be rebooked, officers say McMillie lost track of her kids and became irate, which led to the violence. In a statement, American Airlines said, quote, "Acts of violence against our team members are not tolerated by American Airlines, and we are committed to working closely with law enforcement in their investigation. Our thoughts are with our team member, and we are ensuring they have the support they need at this time."
To $4,500, your total bond. Good luck to you, ma'am.
And so you may have heard her in the video there yelling for people to help her find her kids. Well, it turns out that 6 and 8-year-old had gone to the bathroom without telling her, and that's why she couldn't find them. For now, reporting live here outside the jail in West Miami-Dade, Leanne Motorhome, Local 10 News.
Oh, there you have what happened. You have the single mom of 2 children aged 6 and 8 years old, and they're traveling. They're traveling from Birmingham, Alabama to New York, but they've got a layover in Miami and they missed their flights. In the process of being rebooked, Camelia, I'm not sure if that's her name, decides that she's gonna act like a caged animal and start throwing things and assaulting employees of the airline because she can't find her kids. And I know the prevailing thought is, mental health, and, we really need to, talk about people's mental health because mental health is a real thing. You know what? We can have a conversation about mental health. And maybe one day we will, but this is not that day. We're not going to have a conversation, about mental health. We're not even going to have a conversation about, the stress of traveling, during the holidays and how this could have happened to anybody. Nope, we're not going to do that today. You know why we're not going to do that? Is because it is far past time where we stop making excuses for bad behavior and we actually discuss the cost of accountability, the lack of accountability. Now, I'm not the first person to cover this story. Actually, another content creator by the name of The Crimson Cure, Kendra Davis, she actually provided phenomenal commentary on this topic. She is a female femininity coach, and she talks about the issues going on in the culture, particularly within the Black community. And she covered this story, and I wanted to come in and bring my Christian perspective in true April fashion because this story really did disturb me. So, the first question I want to ask is what is happening in our current culture that leads women to believe that they can act like this with no repercussions? First of all, I don't believe that a person needs to have lived or walked in someone's shoes in order to be able to speak on it. Because if that is the argument, if that is the vantage point from which we're going to talk about anything, we will never be able to have any sort of meaningful dialogue and move the conversation forward if I have to have been a single mom and I have to be Black and I have to, wear wrestling clothes in public in order to be able to speak on something. No, I don't. No, I don't. I know what proper behavior is supposed to be under normal circumstances. And even in light of stress, there is still a level of decorum and public decency that should be the marks of every normal functioning citizen in this country, right? But the point I was going to make is I'm a mom, right? So I can speak, if you're going to say I have to be qualified to speak on this, fine. I'm somebody's mama. I have 4 children, okay? I was a mama of 4 and under. So I know what it's like to have to maneuver around with 4 children in tow by myself, whether that's in the grocery store or the farmer's market or church or wherever. And when you're a mom, you are always on high alert, right? You are the queen of multitasking, right? Have you ever seen a mama with a baby on her hip and with her left hand or the less dominant hand, she's able to unbuckle and unstrap out of a car seat another child, pull that child out, hold her hand, baby still on hip, and then direct the other two to get out the vehicle, and then everybody stand here and wait for me. Don't talk to me about that because I know how to do that. In fact, I'll raise you one. I got a set of twins. So that means I had 2 infants at one time where I had 2 literally strapped on to me at the same time with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old in tow, where 2-year-old, he's still in pull-ups and we don't know if he having a blowout or what's going on. And the 4-year-old got to pee. Okay. And then one of the twins just spit up and threw up all over the place. And then the other one, she got soiled mess up her back. So I'm qualified to speak. Now, where I'm not qualified in a sense is that I am not a single mom, right? I have traveled by myself with my children now on a plane. And first of all, because their daddy is 100% present, that would have never happened. But that's a separate conversation. We can have a conversation about that. Actually, Kendra in her video talked about how mm, w- I'll let you go watch it and see for yourself. Anyway, I want to talk about what is happening in our culture that leads women to believe that they can act like this and that you was just going to walk away unscathed. I'll tell you what's going on in our culture. One, our current American culture, feminism, leftism, that's right, I said it. Leftism creates an environment where women, particularly women of color, get to act like this in public without fear of retribution or accountability because we've been telling them that it's not your fault. It's something out there that keeps happening out to you. That the white man, boogeyman out there, this white supremacist system, all of these external factors are out there happening to you, and you're a victim. And because you're a victim and because you are a recipient of all of this oppression, you have to decompress. And when you're angry, you don't need to have self control. You don't need to restrain yourself. All you need to do is just let it all out because you are entitled to feel the way that you feel because no one has it as bad as you. And no one has been as victimized as you. That is one factor that is contributing, that's happening in our culture right now. The lack of accountability and the victimization and the promotion of leftist worldview and feministic ideals is what's leading these women, the ones that look like me, to think that they can act a fool like this in public and there are going to be no consequences or repercussions because life is hard for us. So therefore, you know, I couldn't find my kids. So therefore, I am going to demand that you help me find my kids. And then when you don't, I'm going to tear up some stuff. I'm going to raise holy Cain because I'm entitled and the world owes me something. Something else that I wanted to talk about. The chaos that you saw in that clip is reflective of the chaos in our homes and in our communities. Can you imagine being 6 or 8 years old and coming out the bathroom and see your mama acting like a wild gorilla, just cutting a fool, swinging stuff around, assaulting employees, fellow travelers terrified because they don't know what you about to do next? Can you imagine your 8-year-old self seeing your mama do that and how embarrassing that must be? And now you got to go back to her. We can discuss what happened. According to the news story, the 6-year-old and the 8-year-old went to the bathroom. For whatever reason, I have my theories, and so does Crimson Cure, about how the fact that she didn't even realize that her kids were gone because it's reflective of the chaotic life that women and women like her are living today. We don't want to be under nobody's authority. You can't tell us nothing. We are rebellious. We are full of wrath and anger and rage. And we don't care who we unleash it on. We unleash it on our children. We unleash it on our employees and employers at work. And now they're letting these animals out the cage and they letting them travel. And when you don't bow down to their demands immediately, violence is their first knee jerk reaction. And some people might say, well, if you couldn't find your kids, you would do the same thing too. I'm sorry. First of all, let's get something clear. There is a specific pronoun in that sentence that you overlook. My kids. I'm not losing my kids in an airport because I am their mama and I am responsible for their well-being and their care. How do you not realize that your 2 kids are MIA? Why have they not been trained to where mama is where you are? And if I'm not there, you ain't there. And if you need to use the bathroom, most mothers would prioritize, let me take Keisha and Jim Bob to the bathroom. But no, this mom, because she is the archetype reflective of the chaos in our communities. These communities that are heavily matriarchal, they have no concept or semblance of any sort of male headship at all. It's just generation and generation after generation of women leading other women, raising children, leading other children, and more women. So it's just chaos. There's no structure at all. So not only do the children not know how to submit to some sort of structure, it's their lives are chaotic. So now she's traveling. I mean, y'all can call me judgmental. That's fine. We call me what you want. But what we are going to do is deal with a number of factors that when you see stories like this, what do they tend to have in common? We talked about the chaos and the lack of structure. When you're traveling with children and you are alone, there is a level of organization that has to take place. You've got to discipline yourself to get up earlier and to allow for more time because you're traveling with little people and you're not just by yourself. So you got to make sure that everybody's bags are accounted for and that you show up to the terminal when you're supposed to so that you can properly board the plane. Now, I get it. Things happen, right? The previous flight could have taken off late due to inclement weather. It has been very, very cold. I don't know the reasons or the details surrounding why she got to Miami late and didn't make the transfer flight from Miami to New York. I don't claim to know the reason, and I don't want to make assumptions. But when you look at how this woman is dressed, she doesn't strike me as a woman that's got a lot of order and discipline in her life. Why? She came out the house dressed like a darn sumo wrestler, like she was ready to fight. This is indicative of the fact that the way you show up and present yourself to the world, it matters. I don't care about you bonnet bays who think that you can leave the house looking like Aunt your mama and her auntie, but it's not okay. You can't leave the house looking any old kind of way and not think that how you are dressed and how it doesn't impact how you're poised and that it doesn't impact how you engage with. I know when I go out with my Timberland boots on and my sweatpants and my sweatshirt, I I feel very different than when I'm dressed in my blazer and my pearls on my wrist and my hair is done and I'm looking neat and polished and together. It does impact the way you interact and engage. I'm not going to the airport ready to scrap dressed like this. Because I'm like, no, I'm going to the airport. I'm trying to get to my destination. I'm trying to go where I need to go and be where I need to be. But she came out the house looking like a sumo wrestler or like she's about to audition for the next episode of WWE. Are you surprised that her rage and anger and desire to want to fight everything in her way? Are you shocked that this is the behavior from her? You shouldn't be. She came ready to throw down. And this is why I'm always talking to young women. I'm talking to my girls. I'm talking to anybody who will listen. The way you present yourself to the outside world matters. It matters because it reflects how you're going to engage out there. And it matters because it reflects on how you feel on the inside. And it's something about when you're dressed up with a little heel, there's a level of feminine restraint that is somehow activated that is not activated when you have on your Timbs and your sweatshirt and a bandana on your head. Do you understand what I'm saying? The other thing, there's no sense of personal or community pride. And I don't mean pride in the lifted up and puffed up kind of pride. I'm talking about having a sense of duty and responsibility that when you go out there in the world, not only do you represent yourself and your family, but you are a member of a community. And you, whether you like it or not, you represent them too. Women typically like this, they don't have that. They live in a very individualized me, myself, and I. Can't nobody tell me nothing because I do what I want to do when I want to do it, and ain't nobody gonna tell me different. There is no sense of personal pride or community pride. They don't care that when they go out into the world, showing up, acting a fool like this, that they are a reflection of other people who share their ethnic image. They don't think about that. And they sure don't care about the image that they're portraying and the reflection of their families, because what's a family anymore? What is a family? If you've never had a sense of a family bond in the nuclear family sense with a mother and a father who enacts his authority lovingly but assertively, and a mom who lovingly submits but nurtures and cares for the children, and then children that obey, when you have no concept of that, are you shocked and surprised when the mamas who are supposed to know better don't know better? And I'm not going to say she doesn't know any better, but this is a normal Tuesday for her. For you to come into the airport and think, I'm going to tear up equipment and throw things at people, not one time did it ever go off in her mind like, you know what? This might land me in jail. And the children that I claim to love and be so concerned about, what's going to happen to these children? Right? If the police come and arrest me for disorderly conduct and for assault, I don't believe that you care about those kids, because you weren't thinking about those kids when you went on your rampage acting a fool like a wild orangutan that just got loose from the zoo. Where was your love and concern for those children? Now, in the heat of panic, right, you're like, oh my goodness, where are my children? Because that can happen. Children walk off, and in this instance, they seem to be more responsible because they're like, listen, we gotta use the bathroom, and you know how she is. If we tell her that we got a TT, she gon' cuss us out. How do I know? Exhibit A, she gonna cuss us out, and I don't. The 8-year-old, I'm like, I don't really feel like being cussed out today. I've been cussed out enough on this trip. I'm gonna just take you to the bathroom. But no, they had more sense to be like, we just gonna remove ourselves and go to the bathroom while she handled her business. They probably thought that by the time we get back, all's gonna be right. She ain't even gonna notice we gone, because she don't never notice nothing. Because she in her own chaotic, deranged world where violence is the answer to everything. And so she thought that it was okay to wild out like this, talking about, you better find my kids. First of all, they are your kids. And like I said, I've been in situations where you panicking. Like one time I accidentally locked my keys in a car and there was a child in there. Yes, I panicked, but it was a different kind of panic. I'm a damsel in distress. I need to find some men who can help me break into my car and get my baby out. Can you help me? Not me walking through the parking lot with a bat demanding, help me get my kid out the car. No. It was, oh my goodness, people, despite how wicked and fallen that this world is, people are willing to help you when you are genuinely in distress. All she had to do was say, I cannot find my children. Can you make an announcement over the loudspeaker or something? Or just, I'll be right back. I gotta go find my baby. She didn't even have sense enough to be like, okay, let me check the bathroom first. She wasn't thinking. And that's the thing, the impulsivity, the lack of structure, and the presence of chaos in our communities due to the absence of masculinity creates a storm for behavior like this to just flourish. Like I said, this is every day in her world, just the chaos. Just acting a fool is her default mode. That is her default position. Secondly, I want to discuss from a spiritual perspective, yes, there are serious issues within the Black community that are concerning me. And I do feel that there is a level of social responsibility on yes, I am responsible for shepherding my own children, but I also am realistic and recognize there's a whole generation of young women coming up after me that have no concept of having people, women in particular, in their lives to restrain them and teach them proper behavior. They've never seen it. They're like, all my mama do is act a fool when she goes somewhere. She come up to the school acting crazy. She go to the taekwondo place where I take lessons, and when things don't go her way, she acts out. Like, how long are we going to allow our communities to be decimated by this behavior? When are we going to have some women stand up and say, no, this is not okay? And not only is it not okay, we are holding you accountable. We are going to make sure that those children, they don't need to be with you. They need to be with someone after you have gotten some therapy, got some counseling, but more importantly, submit to the lordship of Jesus. Something is wrong. Here is spiritually what is going on in this. Read you guys from 2 Timothy 3, talking about the godlessness in these last days. Because it's easy. Yes, I can point to these issues that's going on in the culture and then just kind of leave you with no answers as to how we got here, why is it this way, and what is the solution. And yes, as another Black woman, I I feel it is my duty to discuss the decimation and the destruction and the chaos in our communities, because this is unsustainable. If these are the women that are raising the children, can you imagine what our communities are going to look like 15 years from now when the 6 and 8-year-old are adults? If someone doesn't step in and attempt to provide some sort of mentorship and positive opposition to the chaos that these children are growing up in. And I don't want to hear talking about, well, it's hard and it's poverty. Listen, I know how expensive it is to travel. It's her and 2 children. That's 3 plane tickets. It ain't that much poverty. If she could afford to travel, she can afford to act right. And if you feel like because of poverty prevents you from having standards and requirements, all we have to do is look back in history of our ancestors who did more with less, who didn't have a lot of money, would be darned if they went out in public and acted a fool. It's because they had a sense of social responsibility and personal responsibility and familial responsibility. They knew they reflected their family. And to act like that in public was to bring shame upon their family. You didn't want to bring shame on your family. Why? Because your name was all you had. You may not have had a lot of money. You may not have had a lot of prestige, but you had a good name. These days, your name don't mean nothing. We don't even know what half your names, we can't say them anyway. Trying to pronounce vowels that were never meant to go together with consonants that are absent. But let me read to you from 2 Timothy 3. But understand this, that in the last days, there will come times of difficulty. The Apostle Paul is addressing Timothy in this epistle and giving him insight as to what to look out for and what godlessness in the last days would look like. He goes, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. When I read this text, I can't help but think about what I see in the culture and how this is just so evident. We have social media and the selfie culture. Everybody just love themselves. We want to see ourselves all the time. This selfie, selfie, selfie. Listen, I like a good selfie too. I get it. But I am talking about this incessant, unsatiable love of self. And the love of self feeds the love of money because now you can go on social media. You don't have to have any sort of social restraint. You can have an OnlyFans account where you literally, in the context of a social media account, show your body and people will pay you for it. You ain't got to have there's no zero self-respect needed, not needed to apply. Not needed to apply. Proud and arrogant and abusive. How arrogant of you to think that you could approach a ticket counter where these people are professional and trying to treat you with the human dignity and respect. And then because you can't keep up with your kids, now here we go with the blame shifting. The blame shifting that the liberal elite are actually pushing and propagating, right? The entitlement. It ain't your fault. It's out there. It's these people around me are the reason why I can't find my children. Ungrateful, unholy, unappeasable. Can't make them. Nothing makes these people and types like this happy. There's never enough social programs. There's never enough handouts. There's never enough nonprofit money that you can throw at these problems to appease because that's not the solution. The solution is that people are spiritually dead and they are sinful and that they are wicked and that they need salvific help. We can talk about mental health, but I can't get to your mental state until I deal with your spiritual state. You need to be born again. Yes, you have issues. Yes, you have problems. Yes, your daddy wasn't there. But I'm here to tell you that despite the father deficiency, you have a heavenly father who can teach you and train you on how to be and function and conduct yourself in this world. Because he has a prescription that's laid out in his word. Slanderous, without self-control. They use their speech to tear down complete strangers, and they have no guilt and no shame. They use profane language in the public square, and they're not embarrassed. They don't care that there are sensitive ears nearby. They'll just say what they want to say and then dare you to speak up against it. And Lord forbid, don't be a different color. Oh no. Don't be another color and actually point out observable reality like, "Hey, can you your child is about to walk away." I'm telling you, I have stories. I've got white girlfriends who are like, I'm walking on eggshells. You can't say nothing because you automatically get positioned and coined as a racist. I'm sure there were people who saw the kids walk off and were like, under normal circumstances, I would tap her and be like, hey, the kids are walking off. But we don't know what kind of animal we're dealing with. So I'm not going to put my life on the line and risk being called being called a Karen out of concern and trying to warn you of what's going on with your child. No. I'm going to mind my business. This is the environment that all this wokeism and liberal ideology creates because now the sense of community is now gone. People who would normally have care and concern for their fellow neighbor, if there's a difference in ethnicity, you actually think twice now because you don't want you walking on eggshells. You're like, I don't know how my actions or my behavior is going to be misconstrued. And so, you know what? I'm going to just mind my business because the last time I tried to tell somebody that their child was in danger, they flipped it on me and made it seem like I was the problem. So no, I ain't doing that. Without self-control, brutal. This woman's behavior was brutal. Nothing that happened to her legitimizes throwing all that equipment and acting like a wild banshee in an airport. You rolling around on the floor, looking all kinds of crazy, embarrassing yourself, embarrassing the culture, and just making Black women all over the universe look bad. So now, when we go out, we have to overcompensate because we don't want to be associated with people who act like this. So now we got to turn it on extra thick. We got to it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to combat this foolishness and to help people understand, listen, we're not all that way. I know we look the same, but we are not the same. We are not. And I'm calling it out. And I don't care. I'm not providing shelter and cover for this behavior. It is wrong. It is unacceptable. And I'm concerned that our legal system is going to give her a slap on the wrist. Because all she got to do is be like, my mental health that day, I didn't have my service animal, my support dog, and my baby daddy didn't put the money in my account like he said. And I just had a lot on my mind. And Your Honor, I just need a second chance. I am praying that the justice system will be impartial. Be blind, Lady Justice. Don't allow this woman's ethnicity to blind you to what you know to be true. She needs to pay. Because this is not okay. Because what it does, it sets a precedent that when you don't get your way or whatever kind of day you're having, you can just take it out on the rest of society. And we just gonna be like, just go ahead, just let it out, sis. I've even had Black ignorant say, well, the airline got insurance on all that equipment. Insurance will pay for it. I'm sorry, what? The insurance will pay for it. So never mind this woman's bad behavior and the way she was acting. There's no sense of social responsibility here. It's just the insurance will pay for it. And then you make no connection between dumb statements like that and then why the cost of goods and services go up and why it's hard to retain quality talent and actually get employees who want to be gate agents because they don't know the next time Bum Quisha gonna set it off. So now you have to pay gate agents a premium to be a gate agent because they don't want to deal with this foolishness. They don't want to be a stewardess anymore and flight attendants because they're like, it ain't safe. When you say stupid stuff like, well, the insurance will pay for it, not recognizing who you think got to pay the insurance premium? The company. And if the company starts losing money because they got to spend extra money on resources, extra money on security, extra money on cameras to make sure they got eyes on Bonquisha at all times, where you think they going to transfer all that increase in cost of goods to? You, the ticket holder. So now your airline prices go up. So now when you're like, well, sure, used to cost about $230 to fly. Now it's $400 and $800 for one plane ticket. Eventually, they might start pricing people like this out the market, which hurts everybody because they're like, listen, we will not tolerate this kind of behavior. And if we got to raise ticket prices to eliminate people who are going to act like this from flying, what happens to the rest of us normal middle class people who are like, hey, that's not us. Don't think it's too far-fetched that something like that can't happen, where they're going to have to actually start changing and implementing new corporate rules to account for stuff like this. Brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless. It was reckless. And I know y'all gonna say I'm being harsh for you to not know where your children went, but it was more reckless. We could understand if you just they got out of sight for the few moments you were talking to the gate agent. But for you to start throwing stuff, rolling around on the floor, wilding out, thinking that we was just gonna understand. No, that was reckless. So now we're looking at you and your parenting to say, are you even fit to be raising these children? Where's their father? Who's the next of kin? We need to get these children from out of her care, custody, and control because she's acting a fool. A fool. That is biblical to call someone who lacks sense a fool. Swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. This is the culture. These are the things that are happening in the culture that leads to behavior like this, but it's aided and abetted by liberal ideology. See, liberal ideology doesn't have standards or requirements. It doesn't. It doesn't have a baseline. This is how we are to be. It's nothing but chaos, and it's how you feel. And it teaches you to lean into how you feel because your feelings are valid at the expense of everybody else's. And it's the victimhood, the eternal victimhood narrative that are teaching women who look like me that you don't need to be responsible or accountable for your actions. You can just fly off at the handle and get into your feelings and lean into the chaos. And the more the merrier. Hey, if you feel like twerking on the table, go right ahead, sis. Do you, because that's your truth. Live in your truth. Forget the fact that it's debased and it's vile, because there's no social representation. There's no personal accountability. It's just lean into the chaos and lean into how you feel. Liberalism pushes this, coupled with feminism. Feminism that says that, men are allowed to be angry and do what they want. So why can't we? Because we're different. Women are not men. We don't live in a perpetual state of flight or fight mode, always ready to throw hands. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from the hood. I get it. When you grow up rough, you always feel like you got to be on the defense. But sometimes, at some point, you have to reach a point in your life where you put the weapons down and lean into being a lady because you now have children who are looking at you for cues on how to act. Do you want to show up to the school because your daughter is acting that way? Don't be shocked. She gets it from you. She acts just like you. So in closing, this violence, this vile and vicious and treacherous behavior that the Bible speaks of, the godlessness that we see in these last days, I would argue that liberal ideology and feminism have a lot to do with this and our poor choices as a community. When you don't have a healthy balance of masculinity and femininity, or when you take masculinity out altogether, women start to mirror the very thing that is missing because they're trying to make up for it. So, all of that masculine WWE animal kingdom energy that you witnessed on that screen, that's a lack of femininity. And if we don't start pushing against this and speaking out against it and holding people accountable by not allowing our legislators to lessen penalties for people who break the law and criminals. But if we don't start restoring law and order and helping people see that there are consequences for your actions, and you're free to act a fool in the airport, but I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. What is gonna happen is you will serve time and you will pay restitution for all of the damage you caused. Oh, because we will sue you. That needs to happen. But if the judge in this case just starts leaning into their white guilt and not hold this woman accountable, it will prove the point that white liberals, as much as they claim they care about the Black community, they don't love us. they actually hate us. Because what would be good for this woman is for her to learn a lesson and be held accountable for her actions, spend some time in jail, and have to work off what the amount of money that it cost them and all of that destroyed equipment. That would teach her a lesson. It's called you got to have accountability, and she needs to feel ashamed, and she needs to sit into that guilt, because that that is not a one-off. She's cut a fool like that somewhere else before because it came real natural to her. So that's my commentary. And don't ever let me find out that someone I'm closer connected to is out in the streets, in public, acting like this. Because I will find you and I will call you out. I will. Because I'm not afraid of you and I am not afraid of the culture at all. Grace and peace.